Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. We are looking at something you probably have sitting in your pantry right this very second. Something so ubiquitous, we honestly just take it entirely for granted. But as we're about to discover, the humble potato, it's not just a simple side dish. It is a stunning, ancient agricultural marvel, and perhaps even more surprisingly, it's a massive triumph of rigorous, modern microscience. Today, we're going on a wild journey from towering mountains to pristine laboratories.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First up, ancient Andean roots. Second, from seed to harvest. Third, the 15-year breeding timeline. And finally, the multiplication process.
So, starting things off with Section 1, Ancient Andean Roots.
Way before the pristine labs and the high-tech agriculture we have today, the story of the potato actually begins in a place you might not expect, literally high up in the clouds. These are the rugged, towering peaks of the Andean region in South America. This incredibly harsh, extreme environment is the true birthplace of the potato. And you know what's absolutely fascinating here is the timeline. A full 2,000 years before Europeans ever even set foot in the New World, the indigenous peoples of the Andes had already discovered, cultivated, and were completely relying on this incredible tuber.
Notice the stark organic reality of these ancient harvesting methods. It's a highly tactile, dirt-under-the-fingernails approach to traditional farming. It's labor-intensive, it's intimate with the earth, and honestly, it's a vibrant contrast to the hyper-clean, technologically advanced science we're going to explore a bit later in this explainer. Right here is where the absolute genetic foundation for every single potato you have ever eaten was laid.
So how exactly did this very local mountain crop completely conquer the globe? Well, the potato certainly didn't stay in the Andes. By 1570, returning Spanish conquistadors had introduced it to Spain, and from there, its journey is just wild. By 1622, European colonists actually brought the potato back across the Atlantic to the New World. Talk about a round trip, right? And by the year 1700, this strange South American tuber had officially become an absolute staple food crop across Europe, literally changing global diets forever.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, from seed to harvest. Let's talk plant biology.
Having just seen that massive, global macro history, it's time we zoom all the way down into the biological microworld. Let's think about what actually happens beneath the soil when a potato grows. Now, what's really interesting about the architecture of the plant itself is how the main stem springs upward from the original seed tuber planted in the ground. But below the soil level, you have these horizontal stems shooting off. Those are called stolons. The potato we eat doesn't actually grow on the roots. It forms at the very end of these stolons. It's essentially a giant underground energy storage unit for the plant.
And this growth happens in a series of highly structured vegetative steps. First up, we get sprouting from the seed. Then comes leaf development, which allows the plant to start photosynthesizing. Step 3 is absolutely crucial, tuber initiation. That's where the ends of those stolons actually start swelling. Then comes flowering and bulking, where the potatoes get big. And finally, senescence, which is where the leafy top dies back, signaling that it's harvest time. This entire incredible transformation from a tiny shoot to a full plant takes roughly 15 weeks.
This whole process brilliantly illustrates the internal energy shift of the potato plant. If you track the growth over those weeks, you see an amazing crossover. Initially, the growth of the shoots and leaves ramps up, peaking mid-season. But right as those leaves hit their peak, the plant just completely stops focusing its energy on the leafy canopy above ground. Instead, it entirely redirects all that energy downward. That's when the tuber mass below the earth starts rapidly bulking up. It is a literal masterclass in biological efficiency.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 15-year breeding timeline, taking it to the market.
But you know, nature's efficiency is really only half the story here. Because today, creating a brand new commercial potato, it's honestly closer to launching a satellite than it is to traditional farming. Just look at the modern breeding timeline, 15. Let that number just sink in for a second. If an agricultural scientist decides today, right now, to create a new, improved variety of potato, it will take a minimum of 15 years before that potato reaches commercial quantities. That is a decade and a half of rigorous, unbroken research and development.
So what on earth are these scientists doing for 15 years? Well, they are painstakingly trying to strike a perfect genetic balance. They aim to promote what are known as the 5 S's: perfect size, shape, solid content, storability, and ideal sugar management. But simultaneously, they have to ruthlessly avoid the 3 Ds: disease, damage, and disorders. Missing the mark on even one of these metrics, it basically means throwing out years of work and starting completely over.
The R&D pipeline here is just incredibly intense. It kicks off with years 1 through 4 in Phase 1, experimental breeding, where thousands of tiny, diverse clones are tested. The survivors of that gauntlet move to Phase 2, which is 5 years of grueling field trials across different soils and climates. If they manage to survive that, years 10 to 13 involve massive, grower-engaged commercial runs. Finally, years 14 and 15 are dedicated purely to producing enough certified seed to actually sell. It is a monumental undertaking.
But when they get it right, that 15-year wait pays off exponentially. Take the commercial success of a newly bred chipstock variety known as the Brook potato over in Europe. Back in 2012, they produced about 60,000 tons. Just 2 years later, in 2014, that volume absolutely exploded to 240,000 tons. When a new potato variety perfectly balances those 5 S's and 3 D's we just talked about, the agricultural market adopts it massively and almost immediately.
Finally, we hit Section 4, the multiplication process. Let's look at seed certification.
Okay, so once we actually have that perfect 15-year-in-the-making potato, how do we multiply it to feed the world without accidentally introducing diseases? Remember that tactile, dirt-covered traditional farming we saw earlier in the Andes? Well, check out this total 180. Today, a new potato variety begins its commercial life as a tiny pathogen-tested microplant, stored in completely sterile glass jars inside climate-controlled cool rooms. It is hyper-clean, ensuring that the base genetic material is 100% free from any viruses or fungi.
So the crucial point to understand here is that this material, which they call nuclear stock, is highly guarded. It's produced officially at government-regulated facilities like SASA, which actually holds over 500 different potato varieties in its collection. To keep these genetic lines alive and perfectly healthy, these tiny plants are carefully cut and regenerated by technicians every 2 to 3 years. They are basically the pristine blueprints of our global potato supply.
From those highly secure government vaults, the journey to your dinner plate finally kicks off. Approved laboratories take those microplants and multiply them. These little plantlets are then transported to strictly protected, disease-free greenhouses where they're grown in sterile peat or hydroponic setups. What they eventually harvest from these are called mini tubers, flawless miniature potatoes that are then sent out to farmers to plant in their fields, starting the whole agricultural cycle we know and love all over again.
It completely shifts how you look at a simple root vegetable, doesn't it? What looks like just a basic ingredient is actually a living, breathing artifact of human ingenuity. So I'll leave you with this thought. Next time you're enjoying a simple potato chip or a side of fries, take a second. Will you be able to taste the 15 long years of rigorous laboratory science and the 2,000 years of rugged mountain history that made that single bite possible? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep feeding your curiosity, and I'll catch you on the next one.